A time when the world's largest corporate emitters are under immense pressure to set short, medium and long-term emission targets that are consistent with the Paris Agreement. At present, no oil and gas major has disclosed how it will achieve its goals to become a net zero enterprise by 2050 or sooner, more than 5 years after the Paris Agreement was ratified by nearly 200 countries. The landmark climate accord is widely recognized as critically important to avoid an irreversible climate crisis. Shell's energy transition strategy, published earlier this year, outlined the group's plans to reach net zero emissions by 2050. It aims to reduce net carbon emissions by about 6% to 8% by 2023, when compared to 2016 levels. The target jumps up to 20% by 2030, 45% by 2035, and 100% by 2050. The company has said it will publish an update to its strategy every 3 years through to 2050. It would also seek an advisory vote on its progress towards its plans and targets every year from 2022. Shell has not committed to Paris-aligned targets for absolute emissions through to 2030, an omission that has not gone unnoticed by climate activists and investors. Right, so that's what we'll be talking about right now. Joining me via Skype from Benin City to discuss this is David Ugola, Executive Director, African Network for Environment and Economic Justice. Reverend Ugola, it's good to have you join me right now.
Thank you, my brother.
Great.
Just to let you know, I'm actually from Abuja.
Oh, okay, you're joining us from Abuja. Thank you. So, thank you very much. Now, at the AGM of Shell, the far-reaching resolutions that were made there, certainly a lot of people will see them as controversial, but talk to us basically from your own perspective and observation, how far-reaching these resolutions are from your perspective.
Yes, our concern, which was contained in our letter we wrote to the Church of England, Archbishop of Canterbury. Over 40 NGOs across the country, which include Executive Director, our famous University of Women, and other groups of NGOs working on climate change, environmental issues, and governance issues across the country. We expressed very deep concern when the church expressed support for the Royal Dutch Shell energy transition strategy.
So you were talking about some of the, in fact, you wrote a letter to the Bishop of Canterbury when they gave support to Shell's proposal, and there are some concerns there. Can you draw us attention? That was what you were talking about before.
Yes, as you know, the Church of England is one of those institutions that are investors who are supporting Shell through their investment, and they're part of the Climate Action 100 plus investors who has been engaging Shell in the past 2 or 3 years. And we see that the support of the church, particularly very positive about the Royal Dutch Shell energy transition strategy, as some concern we expressed, because as you know, the church is an influential institution, and we thought that what Shell's energy strategy represent will not solve the problem. It does not align with the Paris Agreement on climate change, and we thought that the church should not endorse such strategy because it will send a wrong signal. So over 41 NGOs across Nigeria did this letter to the Archbishop of Canterbury, first to express our concern, then two, to urge the church to stay to reconsider their support for Shell, particularly the AGM that was coming up, and that was on Tuesday. And we thought the church would listen to the voice, although they responded by agreeing with some of the issues that we have raised, and they have offered a roundtable, which we thought that wasn't sufficient enough because first, we have raised a fundamental question. We all know the impact of climate change, that the third world country, developing country, are going to have the impact. And we expect that the church will align with the people, particularly who are victims of the climate change. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. And that for us was a serious concern. And to a large extent, the AGM went ahead to adopt the Resolution 20, which supports the Shell energy transition strategy. For us, that was a serious signal that Shell wasn't willing to align with the Paris Agreement, which is very unfortunate.
All right. Part of the letter you wrote, let me quote part of it so you explain to us what this means. It says, I quote you now, it says, indeed, Shell's rush to find land for nature-based solutions might well lead to further carbon colonialism, slavery, and human rights violations in the global south. That was part of the letter you wrote. Can you explain that to us, what that means in context?
Yes, what we mean is that the strategy that Shell is adopting to, as an attempt to give an impression that they are actually working towards the Paris Agreement on climate change is unacceptable. It's not sustainable. It is an attempt again to grab the lands, and is an attempt to give an impression they are willing to support a clean energy process, which is not true, and that this is another colonization, and that this need to be noted, and that's exactly what we have said in that letter. And again, it explains very clearly that the policy direction of Shell is not very good for the people of the South.
All right. In specific terms, I'm putting it very straight. What would you like to see from these resolutions?
Well, I think one of the key things that have come out, I'm happy that as Shell AGM was going on, the influential International Energy Agency, IEA, released their groundbreaking report that has now called for further investment in oil and gas, because as you know, the oil and gas are contributing majorly to the climate change challenge through the gas flaring, oil pollution is damaging the environment. And you look with, for example, the people of Niger Delta, if you go to the coastal area, you can see the damage that the climate change is having on the people. And so the IEA, an influential think tank, I think, has come out with a report titled Zero Emission Report. And they made a very strong recommendation for further investment in oil and gas, which will again send the right signal that countries around the world are really working towards the Paris Agreement on climate change. And hopefully we think that this report will help send the right message to the church and also the Shell, to begin to rethink their strategy.
All right. In all of this, because we commend the role that civil society organizations are taking on behalf of the people. But on the other hand, the government is supposed to hold all of these things in trust for the people. What role does the Nigerian government have to play in taking responsibility for this? Because at the end of the day, it is government that is supposed to actually take this fight, if at all we see it as a fight.
Well, that's why I also appreciate the IEA report. They also appreciate the fact that a major source of income comes from oil. So when you are advocating for moving away from fossil fuel economic strategy, it doesn't resonate in Abuja, because over 90% of our foreign exchange comes from oil export. And so when you're speaking to Abuja people that let's move towards sustainable, renewable energy, it doesn't resonate with them. But the damage is doing, for example, if you go to the northern part of the country, look, desertification, you can see it has relationship with the high level of insecurity that we're seeing in the north today. And if you look the high level of insecurity you also experience in the Niger Delta, it's also traced to this kind of economic strategy that depends on fossil fuel. And you know, we have suffered so much in this country because of our economic strategy that depends on fossil fuel. And so the people in Abuja, they need to be rethinking, particularly against the background that there is now a global agenda to move towards zero net emission by 2050. And what that implies is that there will be less reliance on fossil fuel as a source of transport and as a source of other technology that we currently rely on in Nigeria. And when that happens, nobody is going to be looking for Nigerian oil any longer. So what will happen to the economy? So the earlier that Abuja policymakers start doing rethinking on how they can take an advantage of the opportunity that is provided in this conversation, the better for our economy. But unfortunately, the conversation in Abuja moving towards sustainable energy source is not moving in a direction that one would have expected. But I hope that with the IEA report and with COP26 coming up in Glasgow by November this year in London, I hope that this will again raise the political agenda within Abuja conversation. But our appeal to Abuja policymaker is to take an advantage of this upcoming Glasgow meeting to begin to look inward. How can Nigeria move away from the current fossil fuel economy? How do we begin to invest in a renewable energy? Because that's the future. If Nigerian government don't take the decision now, we will be victim as the whole world move in the direction to ensure a net zero.
Okay. All right. So Nigeria is not left behind. Thank you very much, Reverend David Dugola, Executive Director, African Network for Environment and Economic Justice. We appreciate you for what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.